Good day, students. Once again, I'm here to record a question on capital budgeting once again. And this is the question out of 30 marks, but my main focus will only be on the 20 marks, which is the calculation part of the question. The theory is one thing that I will not go and explain. It is there in the solution. And it says MASHESHA Pty Ltd is a transport and logistics company which operates a national distribution network with a large client base and utilizes a rigid dispatch and prioritization schedule. MASHESHA is currently in talks with Moya Technology Limited, which is Moya, a company that distributes prepaid airtime to wholesalers, retailers, petrol stations, and end users throughout South Africa. Moya's business is such that it customizes the delivery of prepaid airtime according to the circumstances and requirements of its clients, some of which are highlighted below. Moya supplies a large number of retail stores, chain stores with prepaid airtime by sending them a file via email or electronic file transfer. The file contains PINs, personal identification number, which retailers then split and send to their various outlets. Prepaid airtime is supplied to small businesses such as corner cafes by installing mobile point of sale terminals, which is POS. This allows for encrypted PIN inventory of frequently used purchase or products to be delivered to and stored on the POS device. The devices are operated by the cashier and are password protected, ensuring transactions are secured. For the less structured operation, mobile solutions are provided. Vending machines are supplied to busy supermarket 24 hours, for counts and hotels. These are standalone units which can be operated by the customer. Moya had previously undertaken the delivery of prepaid airtime in-house, and Moya has recently been experiencing several staffing problems, and given the nature of its large geographically dispersed customer base, Moya has been finding it difficult to keep up and has made many late deliveries over the past few months. Moya's customers are extremely unhappy and have been inundating them with complaints. Moya has decided to outsource its distribution operations to MASHESHA in order to focus on its primary business, which is technological solution for the telecommunication industry. The delivery of prepaid airtime to its customers. Moya has proposed to pay MASHESHA a fixed monthly fee of 450,000 rands, and take note of the fact that the fee that is paid, it is fixed and it is on a monthly basis, and we might be required to take a decision on an annual basis of this costs or income. The monthly fees are 450,000 per month, which are to be multiplied by 12 if it is per annum, and an additional 75 cents or 75 rand per kilometer. And take note of this, 75 rand per 100 kilometer traveled. So now we are given that 75 rand for every 100 kilometer that are traveled being paid. Therefore, now if we want to know how much is paid per kilometer, it will be 75 divide that by 100, meaning it will be 75 cents that is paid per kilometer. Just in case we need to convert this into per kilometer as opposed to the 100 kilometers. Then after it says all amounts are in current value, are at today's value. In turn, MASHESHA will have to pay a cancellation of the contract fee of $1 million, which is payable immediately. So now if the contract can be cancelled, let us say in the event that MASHESHA terminates the contract before the expiration of its 5-year period. So obviously, this 450,000 monthly must be multiplied by 12, because we are already seeing that this deal is for a period of 5 years. So the 450,000 will be multiplied by 12, then we get the fixed fee that is paid for the full year before we take into account any incremental cost or inflationary increase. Then now we have the 1 million, which is payable immediately, that must be taken into account in case the contract is cancelled before the period of expiry, which is 5 years. Then after we proceed once again, and we need to be mindful of these fees because they will definitely be useful in the future. In order to undertake the delivery service, MASHESHA will have to purchase a fleet of delivery trucks, an upfront capital investment of 4,800,000 rand. So now this is the initial investment of 4,800,000 rands. And please don't forget that the 1 million is payable immediately, meaning it's an amount paid at the beginning of the project period in case the contract is cancelled before it gets expired. So now we can see that the initial investment for this project will be 4.8 million, and also we have to take into account that that million is payable now before the contract is cancelled, before its expiry date. Then now it further says these trucks are reliable and fuel efficient, and because of their reliability and their efficiency in the fuel, it therefore requires 7 liters of fuel per 100 kilometers for the first 3 years, while thereafter 9 liters of fuel are required per 100 kilometers. Now we also have to take this into consideration of what we read previously, because previously we were told that there will be an additional payment of 75 for every 100 kilometers. For every 100 kilometers, they will get paid 75 rand. And I said we need to convert this by saving 75, divide that by 100, and we discovered that it will be 75 cents that is paid for a kilometer, meaning 75 cents per kilometer. So now when we see that it's very important to convert it to per kilometer, coming again to the required liters that are consumed, for every 100 kilometers, 7 liters will be consumed. Then that is only for 3 years. Then after 9 liters will be consumed for every 100 kilometers after 3 years of using these trucks. Then we proceed on that same note once again. Then now we say in the next sentence that in accordance with the delivery fleet maintenance plan, annual maintenance cost expected to be 336,000 in year 1, with an escalation will escalate with increasing multiples of 2% every year as the delivery of fleet increase with age and usage. So now obviously we have to increase this by 2% in year every year. Then second year will be 4%, third year will be 6%, fourth year will be 8%, because they said in multiples of 2. So that will be increasing in multiples of 2 year by year. Then after we proceed to the second or the next paragraph, and the next paragraph says, for accounting purposes, MASHESHA depreciate its trucks over the useful life of 4 years. So the depreciation is over the period of 4 years. And remember that depreciation is a non-cash item. Therefore, it does not form part of the cash flows. SAS allows a wear and tear at 20% per annum on the straight line method. Then SAS allows wear and tear over a period of 5 years, and that will have to be taken into account when we're calculating the tax amount. The truck will have a combined residual value of 1,200,000 rands. So now the value of these trucks at the end of the useful life will be 1.2 million. This is the residual value, meaning the value at which these trucks are expected to be sold for after the end or at the end of 5 years. So now this will be the residual value, or sometimes they call it a resale value at the end of the useful life of the project. So now this will be recorded as positive expected cash flow in year 5. Total monthly salaries of the truck's drivers are expected to be 264,000 rands in the year in the first year, with a 7% annual increase thereof. So now this will be salaries of 264,000, and be mindful of the fact that it is total monthly salaries. Therefore, we need to multiply them by 12 to get to the salaries for the full year. Then the following year, that will escalate by 7%, third year 7%, and the other years thereof. Other costs, and be mindful of this, other costs relating to the delivery fleet is expected to amount to 65,000 rands. So this is other costs, and this is 65,000 rands per year in year 1. We don't know about all other years, but this will be other cost of 65,000 per year, so we don't have to multiply them. We then have the information which is additional. The current tax rate is 28%, and it is expected to be applicable for the next 5 years, and that is crucial when we're calculating our tax expense. The fees paid by Moyo to MASHESHA. What fees are we talking about? Remember, there were fees that were fixed and there were fees that were variable. It said that Moyo has proposed to pay MASHESHA fixed monthly fee of 450,000. So this is the fee that they are referring to. And an additional 75 rand for every 100 kilometers, which is 75 cents per kilometer. So we are referring to these two fees. When they say the fees and the other cost, they say the fees and the other cost, and we also read that there were other costs that amounted to 65,000 per annum. And I'm highlighting this because it relates with those two. They say the fees paid by MASHESHA and the other costs relating to the delivery fleet. And these are the other costs relating to the delivery fleet. So exactly the same sentence. So those fees of 450,000 per month and the 75 rand for every 100 kilometers, which is 75 cents per kilometer, are expected to increase at an escalation rate of 5.9%. So those two, meaning this one, we have to add 5.9%. And also with those fees that I did mention above, they will escalate by 5.9%. Let me also come and highlight the fact that this will be 5.9%, and this will also be 5.9% escalation clause. The fees and the other cost. Then it says the weighted average cost of capital of MASHESHA is 15%. This is work that will be used to discount our cash flows. The current price of diesel is 11.41 rand per liter, and the current price is given per liter, not per any type or per any unit, but it's per unit, it's per liter. And the average annual increase per liter are expected to be as follows. So now our petrol is expected to increase by 50 cents in year 1, 70 cents in year 2, 75 cents, 80 cents, and 90 cents in year 5. So now these are the expected increase in the petrol price. So now meaning our petrol price will be 11.41 rand plus 0.5 cents. Let me just check that. 11.41 plus 0.5. This is 11.91 rand. So now our petrol price for this year, it will be 11.91 cents. Year 2 plus 0.7, that will be 12.61 cents. Year 2 we have 12.61 cents. Year 3 plus 0.75, 13.36 cents. We have 13.36 cents. Year 4 plus 0.8 cents, which is 80 cents. It will be 14.16 cents, and in year 5 it will be plus 0.9. It will go up by 19 cents, then that will be 15.06 cents. So these are the petrol prices for the 5 consecutive years. Then after we proceed now to the next part of this exercise. Based on the current information and taking into account Moyo's growth plans, the following represents the kilometer MASHESHA expects its fleet of delivery trucks to travel over the next 5 years. So now these are the expected kilometers to be traveled over the next 5 years. Year 1, they expect that 600,000 kilometers will be traveled. And year 2, 605,000. Year 3, 612, 665. Year 4, 704. And year 5, 713, 019. So now these are the expected kilometers to be traveled by this distribution of airtime to the different retailers. So now everything is done, then we go to what we are required to do. Based on the principles of capital budgeting, based on the principles of capital budgeting, and this is what we call the net present value. Whenever there are cash flows that are going out, expenses, and cash flows that are coming into the business, which are normally incomes and the investment that will lead us to the NPV calculation. We must advise MASHESHA whether it will be beneficiary to accept the terms of the contract proposed by Moyo. So now we have to calculate the net present value for this project. Then after calculating the net present value for this project, then we have to decide either should MASHESHA accept this proposal of this contract from Moyo. So now the calculation of the present value will need us to first start with the initial investment, and the initial investment was 4,800,000 rands, and also with the cancellation. They say that they will need to buy a fleet of trucks to the value of 4,800,000 rands. So now that is where we are drawing now the investment decision. Fleet vehicle will cost a total of 4,800,000 rands. So now we say 4,800,000 rands will be the initial cost. Then that will be recorded nothing in all other years, because initial investment is only in the first year. Then we go to the cancellation, because there was another cost that needed or that will be incurred at the beginning of the contract, which is payable immediately. The cancellation fee that was to be paid immediately. There we had a cancellation fee which was payable immediately. So now that cancellation fee must also be accounted for in year one. Then this will be a cancellation fee that is payable in year one. Cancellation fee, and this cancellation fee is R1,000,000 in case the contract is cancelled before the end of the 5 years. Then now we have to go and record all the cash flows. First cash flow is the residual income or residual value for this fleet of vehicles. Residual value, please write this as a full 1,200,000 rands. Residual value is the price at which these vehicles are expected to be sold at the end of their useful life. Let me just go and reconfirm that residual value. Yes, it said the trucks will have a combined residual value of 1,200,000 rands at the end of 5 years. So that is the value at which these trucks are expected to be sold after 5 years. So meaning money that will come into the business at the end of 5 years. So now hence this residual value, I write it as positive cash coming into the business. Therefore now let me start recording the contract fees. And remember, we had fixed fees, so I will start with the fees that were fixed, and the fixed fees were payable at an amount of 450,000 per month. The fees were payable at an amount of 450,000 per month. Then let me do the calculation of the fees. And don't forget that our fees were also escalating at 5.9%. So now the fixed fees were 450,000, and we have to calculate them for all the number of years that we are doing the project. So now let me say fixed fees, contract fees, and our contract fees is 450,000 rands per month, which is year one 450,000 rands, times this by 12. Then it will give me the total cost of the fees for the full year, 450,000 times this by 12, and this will give us 540,000 rands. Therefore now this 540,000 is a total of the fees only in year one. Therefore now we have to escalate this 540,000 by 1.059, which is 5.9%. Then we say times 1.059, and this will give us fees of 571 or 5,718,600, 5,718,600. This is the fees that are fixed for year one, and year two it will be 5,718,600 times this by 1.059. This will give us fees for year two times 1.059. This is 6,055,997 fees for year two, and fees for year three it will be the same 6,055,977 times by 1.059. then same figure times 1.059, it is 6,413,301. That is for year 3. Then we go forward to year 4. Year 4, it will be 6,413,301 times 1.059. Remember, 1.059, we are adding 5.9 incremental rate times 1.059. That gives 6,791,686. Then we go to the last year for the fixed fees, 6,791,686 times 1.059 times 1.059. It is 7,192,395. So these are the fees that will be received by MASHESHA for all these consecutive years. So let me just rewrite them as they are. Year 1, 5,718,600, 5,718,600. Year 2, 6,055,977, 6,055,977. Sorry for the space limitations. Year 3, 6,413,301, 6,413,301. Just want to make sure that everything is a bit clear. Year 4, 6,791,686, 6,791,686. At least there's a bit more space here. Then in year 5, 7,192,395. 7,192,395. 7,192,395. 395. Then that will be the fees that will be received by MASHESHA over the next 5 years in this project. Then now we go to the variable fees. Because these fees were the fixed ones that I have recorded, and they were fixed as it was clearly stated to us that it's 450,000 and these are fixed fees. Why am I saying this one is variable? Because it varies with the number of kilometers that are traveled. The minute the company travel more kilometers, therefore now it will get paid more based on the kilometers that they travel. Just partly ignore the fact that they say for every 100 kilometers they pay 75 rand. We have to convert it into the cost they pay per kilometer, and I said that will be 75 cents per kilometer. Why do I want to convert the payment to be per kilometer? Because we are given the total of the kilometers, which is 600,000 kilometers in year 1. So now meaning for every kilometer, they are being paid 75 cents for every kilometer. Then obviously, when they reach 200 kilometers, then 100 kilometers will be equal to 75 rand. It does not mean that they are not being paid for every kilometer, but when they get up to 100 kilometers, that becomes a total of 75 rand. However, on a kilometer basis, it is 75 cents, which I said it is 75 rand divided by 100 kilometers. Therefore, now that gave us 75 cents that is being paid per kilometer. So now that will make life easier for us if we convert everything to be per kilometer as opposed to be per 100 kilometer. So now we go on that same note. Therefore, now we say the MASHESHA will be paid 75 cents per kilometer. And how many kilometers are they going to take? They will be taking or traveling 600,000 kilometers. And don't forget that there is an escalation clause of 5.9% percent every year. So now let us go and we again calculate the cost of the variable kilometers, the cost of the variable kilometers, or the variable fees in other words. Therefore, now we say variable fees, because these fees, they vary with the number of kilometers traveled. Then we have years. Then we start with year 1, not year 0. Then our year 1, we say there is 600,000 kilometers to be traveled. And there is 75 cents that is payable for every kilometer. Then after, there is an escalation clause, which is an escalation clause of 1.059. So now we need to take that into consideration. Therefore, now let us calculate the escalation of this cost or this income in each and every year. Therefore, now we multiply those. We say 600,000 kilometers times this by 0.75 times this by 1.059. It will give us 476, or let me just start it in a bit different approach. We start calculating the cost before there is an escalation in the first year. We first multiply the kilometers with the cost per kilometer. With the cost 600,000 times this by 0.75, then this gives us 450,000. This gives us 450,000. And this 450,000 is the, let me not do it that manner, because still again I should have started calculating the rand per kilometer. Calculating the rand per kilometer. And the rand per kilometer is 0.75 cents. Therefore, now we increase the rate 0.59 first of all. Then in year 1, my rate will be 0.75 times by 1.059. Then this gives me 0.79. So this will be the cost per kilometer in year 1 because of the escalation clause. Because of the escalation clause that said our cost of fees will go up by 5.9 cents, 5.9%. And now after having converted that or taken that into account, I need not to be ignorant that for every 100 kilometers we pay a total of 75 cents. And that's 75 cents, which I clearly stipulated previously. It was 75 rand for every 100 kilometers. Therefore, now the 75 cents per kilometer is the one that I increased by 5.9%. So now hence I say out of what I have, which is this 75 cents, I add 5.9%. Therefore now that gives me the cost per kilometer after the increment of 5.9%. This one is a bit different from others. Therefore now I can multiply this by the 60 or the 600,000 kilometers. Then I can multiply this by 600,000 kilometers. Therefore it will be 0.79 times by 600,000 kilometers, and this gives me 774,000 rands as the fee that varies with the number of kilometers traveled. Then after we go to year 2 and we say again fees for year 2 will be 0.79, which is the fees for year 1 after they escalated. Then we escalate the fees for year 2 by 1.059, which is 59%. Therefore now we get the increased fees 0.79 times 1.059, and this gives us 0.84 per kilometer. 0.84 per kilometer. So now this will be the fees payable in year 2 per kilometer. And again from there we multiply this by the number of kilometers in year 2. And kilometers in year 2 are expected to be 605,400. 605,400. Then we multiply this by 605,400, and this will give us the fees for the second year. Then we go again to year 3 and we determine the fees that are payable in year 3. Fees, remember, they escalate by 5.9%. Then after we say in the previous year it was 84 cents, and we escalate 84 cents by 59 cents. Then we say 0.84 times 1.059, and this gives us 0.89 cents per kilometer. 0.89 cents per kilometer, and we multiply this by the kilometers that were traveled in year 3. And year 3 they expect to travel 612,665. Then we go on that note 612,665 kilometers. Then this will give us the cost again. Then we go to year 4 and we say year 4 the cost will escalate from 0.89, which was the fee per kilometer in the previous year. Then we escalate that by 1.059 per kilometer. Don't forget that 0.89 times 1.059, then it gives us 0.94 cents. So now it will be 94 cents per kilometer, which is the fee per kilometer in year 4. Then you say how many kilometers are expected to be traveled in year 4. It is 704,565. Then we say 704,565, and this will give us the fee for year 4. Then we go to year 5, and the fee for year 5 will be the fee for year 4 0.94, and we escalate that 0.94 per kilometer by 1.059, and this gives us the fee 0.94 times 1.059, and this will be 99 cents. And that 99 cents is 5 after, therefore now, meaning this will be 1 rand. This will be 1 rand finally will reach to a rand. Times this by the kilometers in year 5. Kilometers in year 5, 713,019. 713,019. 713,019. Therefore now the fees that are payable by Moya will be 713,000 and 19,019. So this is the fees payable in year 5. Let me go to year 4, 0.94 times 704,565. Therefore it will be 610. We just use a different color for clarity purposes. It will be 610, 62,291. And year 3, 0.89 times 612,000 kilometers, 665. And this is 545,272. Year 2, 0.84 times 605,400 kilometers, which is 508. 508, 510,36, and year 1 is 474,000 rands. So now these are the fees that will be paid by Moya to MASHESHA for the next 5 consecutive years, based on the expected kilometers to be traveled. Then now let us go, we record all these fees. 474,000, the first one, 508,536. It is 474,000. 508,536. Year 3, 545,000. 272, just to confirm that. 545, 272. 662291. 662291. Then the last year it was 713,019. Just to confirm that. 713,091. So these are the variable fees that are payable by Moya to MASHESHA from year 1 up to the last year. Then let's look for another revenue, but there was no other revenue. It's only now the cost that are to be paid. Then there was a maintenance. We have taken into account there was maintenance fee, and the maintenance fee was expected to be 336,000 in year 1, and this maintenance fee is escalating in multiples of 2% every year. So it will be 336,000 maintenance. It will be 336,000 in year 1. Then we say 336,000 times 1.02, that will be 342,720. 342,720, and be mindful that this is an expense, therefore it becomes negative. Times 1.04 in year 3, then it will be 356,429. Is an expense that is paid by MASHESHA on maintenance. Times 1.06, it will be 377,815. Year 5 times 1.08, which is an expense of 410 8,039. So now these are the maintenance fees that are expected to be incurred. Oh, this will be 40 because rounding off will lead us to 40. 408,040 because there's a 6 after the decimal. Then we have recorded the maintenance. Then we go to the next expense, which were salaries. Salaries were given to us on a monthly basis, if I am not mistaken. Salaries were given on a monthly basis, if I'm not mistaken. We had total monthly salaries for truck drivers, which amount to 264,000 per month, and they escalate by 7%. I will just use a calculator straight. 264,000 will be the salaries for the month. Then we multiply that by 12. 264,000 times that by 12 months. It is 3,168,000. It will be 3,168,000. Year 2, times this by 1.07. Year 2, it becomes 3,389,760. Times that by 1.07. It becomes 3,627,042. Then the next one we times by 1.07 times 1.07. It is 3,880,936. 3,880,936 times this by 1.07, and this leads to 415,000 or 4,152,601. Then these are the salaries expense that are expected. That is 602 because of the rounding off. 602. These are then expected salaries to be paid to the drivers for the next years up to the 5th year. Then we go to the next expense. I think there was also other cost that we still needed to take into account, and the other costs were expected to be 65,000 per year, and they were escalating at the rate of 5.9%. Therefore, now we had to take that into account. Other costs our other costs were 65,000 in year 1, and in year 2 it will be adding 5.9%. 65,000 times 1.059, 68,835. 68,835 times 1.059, 72,896 times 1.059, 77,197 times 1.059, 81,752. 81,752 752. So now these are the other costs that are expected to be paid throughout the year. Last one being 81,752. Then after we check if there is no other cost, and I think there was another cost that obviously MASHESHA will have to, or MASHESHA will have to incur. And that cost is for MASHESHA a fuel cost. Remember, the variable fee was the fee that is paid by Moya, and Moya was paying this to MASHESHA for the kilometers traveled. Therefore, now at the same time, MASHESHA will incur the fuel cost when traveling and delivering these prepaid airtimes. So now, because of that, we have to take into account the cost that MASHESHA will incur to travel in all these different places. And in doing that, we need to take note of how much is the fuel cost. First of all, the fuel cost, we calculated it to be 11 Rand 91 cents, 12 Rand 61 cents, 13 Rand. After we said the cost of the fuel beginning of the year of 11 Rand 41, we said plus 50 cents, then after plus 70 cents, then plus 75 cents, then we added 80 cents, then after we added the 90 cents. So now these were the costs that we added throughout this 5-year period, expected to be the fuel cost. So now from here, we need to not forget that because these drugs are still brand new, so they are very much fuel efficient, more especially in the first 3 years. So now we were told that the cost that, or the consumption of the petrol for the first 3 years will be 7 liters for every 100 kilometers. If you remember this part, requiring 7 liters of fuel per 100 kilometers. So now, then after it further said, then after it will be 9 liters of consumption required for every 100 kilometers. We need to know the liter usage per kilometer. How many liters are used per kilometer as opposed to the 100 kilometers. We need to convert our units or our cost to be per kilometer, because we are dealing with the kilometer. We are consuming the petrol in kilometers, though we buy it in liters. Then now we have to say, if for every 7 kilometer we travel, if for every 7 liters we travel 100 kilometers, therefore how much is the usage per kilometer? How much do we use per kilometer? So now it will mean that we are using 0.07 liters per kilometer. So we are using 0.07 liters per kilometer. Then now, which is for year 1, year 2, and year 3. And in year 4, remember, we are consuming 9 liters for every 100 kilometers. So now, how much is the consumption per kilometer, not per 100 kilometers? So if we divide that, it will give us 0.09 consumption of liters per kilometers. These are the liters per kilometer. So now this is very, 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 very crucial to be mindful of. So now after we have taken this into account, then it will be easy for us now to do the multiplication, because we already have taken into account how much will be our petrol usage or price every year until the end of the next 5 years. So now let us do the calculation of the fuel cost. And again, I will go to my tables and I calculate the fuel cost. And this is the fuel cost to MASHESHA. Remember, this fuel cost will be cost, which is after increase fuel cost per liter, and our cost per liter in year 1, we calculated it to be 11 rand 91 cents. I hope I'm not mistaken with that. 11.91. Year 2, 12.61. Year 2, 12.61. 12.61. Year 3, it is 12 or 13.36. 13.36. And we go to year 4. The expected price of the fuel is 14.16. And year 5, I have to go and confirm. Year 5, 15.06. We have 15.06. Therefore, now this is the cost of petrol per liter. Then now we know that the usage per kilometer for the first 3 years is 0.07. The usage per kilometer is 0.07. Usage per kilometer is 0.07. And in year 4, it starts to increase to 0.09 per kilometer. Times that by 0.09. Then we have to multiply this by the number of kilometers, which here it was 713,019, if I'm not mistaken. And in year 1, it was 600,000 kilometers. And why do I multiply by this 0.07? Is because I want to know, first of all, how much consumption of petrol does it take per kilometer, because we are given 7 liters that are consumed for every 100 kilometers. But I don't want it for every 100 kilometers. I want it per kilometer, because my kilometers are given I consume petrol for every kilometer. So I divide this by 100 kilometers, then I get the consumption of petrol per kilometer. Therefore, now the consumption of liters per kilometer, consumption of petrol liters per kilometer, which is 0.07 liters per kilometer. Then I multiply that by the petrol price that I buy per liter. Therefore, that will give me the cost per kilometer. So now, if I say 11 times by 0.07, if I say 11.91 times 0.07, it gives me 0.84, if you may round off that to the closest decimals, 0.84. And this 0.80, or not 0.83, this 0.83 is 0.83 per kilometer. This is the consumption of petrol per kilometer. Therefore, how many kilometers were traveled? 300,000 kilometers were traveled. Therefore, now we multiply that by the 300 kilometers traveled, then it will give us 0.83 times by 600,000 kilometers. That will be 498,000. 498,000 rands will be the fuel cost in year 1. And again, by saying this times by 0.07, meaning 0.07 times 12.60, this will give me 0.88. This is per kilometer. This is fuel consumption per kilometer. Then I say, how many kilometers did I travel in year 2, or the company expect to travel in year 2? The company expect to travel a total kilometers of 605,400. 605,400, and I multiply this by 605,400 kilometers. Therefore, this will get me to the total cost 0.88 times 625,400, and this will be 532,752 as the total cost of the petrol to travel the total kilometers of 605,400. Then again here do the same thing, 13.36 times this by 0.07, which is liters per kilometer, and this gives me 0.94, and again the 0.94 is per kilometer, fuel consumption per kilometer. And how many kilometers traveled in year 3? It is 612,665. 612,665. 612,665. Therefore, now this will be 0.94 times 612,665, and this is 575,905. Therefore, now these are the total travel cost in terms of petrol that will be incurred. Then we go to year 4, and we do the same thing in year 4, 0.09. Remember, now in year 4 we no longer are consuming the same number of liters. There is more consumption of liters for every 100 kilometers. Then we term this by 14. Term this by 14.16, and the cost per kilometer is 127 cents, and this is per kilometer. 127 cents per kilometer times this by the kilometers that are expected to be traveled in year 4. 704,565. 704,565 times this by 1.27 times 704,565, 894,797, 894,798, 894,798. And the last year, which is year 5, it is 15.06 times 0.09 per kilometer, which is 1.36, and 1.36 times this by 713,019. 713,019. Times this by 713,019. This is 969,706. So now this is the petrol expense that is expected to be consumed over the next 5 years, or incurred over the next 5 years by MASHESHA. So this will be the petrol cost. Then we go again to our table, we go and we record the fuel cost. Fuel cost 498,000 in year 1. Year 2 we have 532,752. 532,752. There is year 2. Year 3, 575,905. 575,905. 575,905. And we go now to year 4. Year 4 being 894. 894, 798, and in year 5 it was 969, 706. Just confirm that 969, 706. Yes, 969, 897, 97, year 3, yes, 797. So now these are the cost and the incomes that we have taken into account. Then now we have to record taxation. And there is a separate calculation for tax that needs to be done. Then after I will have to bring the cash outflow, which is 4.9 here at the bottom, and this will be negative 4,900,000 rands. It will be 4,900,000 rands. So let me go and record taxation. And under taxation now, I first have to calculate all my total taxable income. All my total taxable income. Then after I have to record wear and tear. Total taxable income. Then after I record my wear and tear. Then I'll just say taxable income. And I'll use the vertical approach, year 1, year 2, year 3, year 4, year 5. Then I will have wear and tear. My wear plus tear will be here. Then my taxable income will be here. Then after taxable income, I will multiply that by tax. Then I will get to my taxation expense. Let me just minimize my stuff. Then my taxable income then I have wear plus tear, then I have taxation. I'll do this little bit different than how they normally do. It's also for space purposes. Then let me go to year 1 and I calculate my taxable income before wear and tear is taken into account. 510 or 5,718,600 plus 474,000 minus 336,000 minus 3,168,000 minus 65,000 minus 498,000 this gives me taxable income of 2,125,600. 2,125,600. And I go to year 2. In year 2 it will be 6,055, 977 plus 508,536 minus 342,720 minus 389,760 minus 68,835 minus 532,752. I get to a sum of 2,230,446. I get to 2,230,446. Then we go to year 3. Year 3, the same thing, calculating the total, 641,000. 301 plus 545,272 minus 356,429 minus 3,627,000, 3,627,042 minus 72,896 minus 575,905. 2,326,301. Then we record this 2,326,301. Year 4. We do the same thing also in year 4, and I will not be recalculating year 4. Now the same thing, total at the end, and the sum of year 4 is appearing in my calculations as, let me check, year 3, yes, 2,326,300. Year 4 is 2,223,231. Then year 5 is 2,293,315. Then we calculate wear and tear according to SAS, not according to us. SAS allows wear and tear at 20%, which is 5 years. Wear and tear of SAS is 20% from the cost of the asset. And the asset was costing 4.8 million. So now in that 4.8 million, SAS allows wear and tear at 5 years or 20%. So we say 4,800,000 divide by 5, and SAS allows this as 960,000 of wear and tear each and every year. It is fixed. It is fixed. Don't know why wear and tear is here. Wear plus tear, 960,000 rands. Allowed by size, 960,000 rands. Then we have 960,000 rands. We have 960,000 rands and 960,000 rands. Taxation will be in the next column. Then we draw a line. Then after we say 960 minus 2,125,600, we get to 1,165,600, 2,230,446 minus 960,000, 1,270,446. And I want to multiply this with tax immediately so that I don't have to come back and do the multiplication of tax. 355,000 710, 355, 724. The first one was 1,165,600 times this by 28%, which gave 326,368. This is the taxation. For year 5, there's something that we need to consider for year 5. Was year 5 there was recoupment. Then we go to year 3, year 4, and before year 5. Year 3 is 2,326,301 minus 960,000. It is 1,366,301. Times this by 28%, and we get to a taxation of 382,564. Then we go to year 4, 2,223,231 minus 960,000. This is 1,263,231 times this by 28%, and it gives us 3,537,705. Then after we go to the last year, year 5. Now the figure for year 5 is a sum of I still have to take into account the recoupment. It is the sum of 2,293,315 plus 1,200,000 rands. Please don't forget that. Then it is 3,493,315, 3,394,315, 3,493,315 minus 960,000. Then this will be before tax amount 2,533,15 times 0.28, and this gives us to a tax of 709,328. So we do have a tax of 709,328. Therefore now we can go and place all the figures for taxation under the line item called taxation. Therefore now we'll be recording only the tax figures, which is the tax column under the taxation line item. That's the tax that we are expected to pay to SARS out of this project and from the income that we have generated. So now we have to go and we record that. Tax for year 1 calculated to be 326,368, 326,368, and remember all these figures are coming from the tax column. 326,368, 355,724, 355,724, 355,724. Then year 3 we had 355 or 382 in year 3, 382 564, and in year 4 we had 353,705. I'm just taking them as they are from the solution, as I did calculate them already. 709,328. Then from here now we have to calculate the total of the cash flows. Remember, we already have calculated the total of the taxable cash flow before taking into account tax. So now what we do, we just say this cash flow which was calculated already minus the tax for that year, and this cash flow minus the tax for that year, and this cash flow minus the tax for that year, and all the total cash flows minus the tax for that given year. So now that is what we ought to do. So now I'm not going to be recalculating everything, but to just say here is the tax minus the cash flow of 3,493,315, and this gives me cash flow after tax has been taken into account in year 5. And that will be calculated, will be 2,783,987 in year 5. So that's what I'll be doing. So all the figure that I'm pasting, it is the taxable income minus the taxation expense, which is the tax column. We get the cash flows after tax has been deducted already. So I think by now you already understand where the cash will be calculated from. So in the first year we'll have 1,799,232. In year 2 it will be 1 million. In year 2 it will be 1,874,736. 736. In year 3 it will be 1,943,736. 736. Year 4 it will be 1,869,526, and in the last year it will be 2,783,987, as I have calculated it already for the last year only. So now after that is being done, we can use cash flow function CF0, CF0, CF1, CF2, CF3, CF4, CF5. So these are cash flows. So now I'll be using the sharp calculator, and in my sharp calculator I will just punch all these as cash flows, then it will give me the NPV. Don't forget that the internal rate of return or interest per year, or the weighted average cost of capital, is 15%. So now my NPV, when I do all the calculations, it gives me 1,813,198. So what do? I just say minus 4,900,000, enter, positive 179, enter, positive this amount, enter, positive this amount after enter, enter, positive this amount, enter, and punch this amount, and I press to my enter button. So after I've done that, I will say second function CFI, which is cash flow, just after above the enter button. Then that will say rate, then under rate I say 15, enter. Then from there I go down and I see where it says net present value, then I say compute. Then after saying compute, it gives me the cash flow or the NPV from the cash flows as 1,813,198. So now this is how the NPV is calculated in such type of an exercise. A bit of a long one, otherwise with different calculations that one has to do. But what is important is to know where to record the cash flows, more especially where there is an incremental part of the cash flow. Maybe if you don't have the financial calculator or the sharp calculator that I am using, you can use the manual approach where you say 1 over 1 plus 0.15 to the power of, remember 0.15 is the 15% of the weighted average cost of capital. So you can say 1 divide this by opening brackets 1 plus 0.15 to the power of 0, which is here 0. Therefore now that will be 1. That will be 1 multiply this by 4.9. Then after for year 2, you can say 1 over divide this by 1 plus 0.15 to the power of year 1. And this will give you, let us just test that, 1 divide this open brackets 1 plus 0.15 to the power of 1. It gives you 0.87. So the 0.87, you multiply it by cash flow in year 1. You multiply this by cash flow in year 1. Then for year 2, you say 1 divide this by 1 plus 0.15 to the power of 2. So you do the same thing, but you say to the power of 2. And if you do that, it will give you 0.76. I just round off everything to 2 decimals. And this 0.76, you multiply it by cash flow in year 2. And you do the same thing, you change this to 3 for year 3. Then you multiply by the cash flow for that given year. Whatever cash or figures that you get, you add them to the 4.9 million, meaning you say minus 4.9 million plus all the cash flows, and that will give you a different NPV. It will give you a different NPV, and your NPV will be 1,814,621. At the end of the day, the figures will be a bit different slightly because another one is the manual approach, another one is the calculator approach. Then after you have done that, we have to now make a decision, either should MASHESHA invest or not in this project. So now let us look at the NPV. The NPV is positive, therefore now the minute the NPV is positive, therefore we can conclude or advise that MASHESHA should accept the proposal as the project yields a positive NPV. So now that will be the conclusion, that MASHESHA should accept the project should accept the project or the proposal as the project yields a positive NPV, meaning positive net present value or net cash flows. So now that will be the part of the question that I was mainly focusing. No, it was a bit consuming time. Then the other part of the question, which is theory part, you can touch base on that at your own time, where you just discuss the financial factors the MASHESHA should consider before accepting the terms of the contract proposed by Moya, and also discussing the non-financial factors, meaning the quantitative factors that Moya should take into account. This 10 marks is honestly just discussion theory, and I will not go based on that. My focus was only on calculation. With that, guys, let me say thank you. Otherwise, hope this will be useful for you.